SsangYong's much improved Corando is still the only real choice if you're looking for something in the crossover or small SUV class offering proper diesel towing power and decent off-roading prowess for less than £20,000. This revised version sugars those practical virtues with sleeker styling, a smarter interior and extra equipment. Plus there's still that class-leading limitless 5-year warranty. It all makes this car well worth a look.
Think of a Korean car maker and it's a reasonable bet that you won't be thinking about SsangYong, which must be frustrating for the brand since the company is actually one of the longest established of all the Asian manufacturers. Recent years have seen this maker re-establishing itself in Europe, armed with investment from new Indian owners Mahindra, seeking to build on a heritage that goes all the way back to 1954. Back then, one of this maker's most important models was badged Corando. It still is. Which makes this one of the longest serving models of all time. Despite that, it's a car with a badge and a design that still has little recognition across the market segment in which it must compete. That for Qashqai-like crossover models and the soft-roading, lifestyle-orientated small SUVs that are just like them. We're talking about the budget end of this sector, of course, cars like Kia's Sportage and Hyundai's iX35, rather than Toyota RAV4s or Honda CR-Vs. And 5-seat only models, since that's what this is. It's a part of the market you'd think even an unknown manufacturer might enjoy some success in if it was able to offer a good-looking car with more power, greater interior space and higher equipment levels than its rivals at a more affordable price. Which was exactly what this Korean brand was offering when it first introduced this model in 2011 with its smart Italian Giugiaro styling and powerful purpose-designed 2-litre diesel engine. Here was the first SsangYong design to swap a heavy-duty ladder frame chassis for more car-like monocoque underpinnings in pursuit of a sensible school-run ride and more rewarding handling. All along with a high specification and pricing that made opposition models look needlessly expensive. A good proposition on paper then, but then it needed to be in order for this Corando to overcome the "what on earth is it" factor and somehow gain a foothold in this talented market segment. Slowly but surely it's been doing just that, progress that'll certainly be aided by the introduction of a substantially improved version late in 2013, the car we're going to look at here. If you're shopping in this segment, is this a contender you should be seriously considering? Let's find out. You'd expect an up-and-coming brand to borrow an engine, or at least engine technology, from someone more established for a car of this importance, especially in this case with SsangYong's modern era history and relying upon elderly Mercedes oily bits under the bonnet. But no, with this Corando, the Korean company has gone it alone and produced its own in-house diesel, and a very powerful one too, a 2-litre EXDI unit developing a pokey 149 PS in manual gearbox form. This, remember, in a segment where every other sub £20,000 contender offers less than 120 PS. There is a slight running cost penalty to pay in exchange for this kind of grunt, of course, but in return you get the kind of performance and pulling power that you'd otherwise have to find around £25,000 for in this class of car. Sounds tempting, doesn't it? You can get this surprisingly effective power plant mated to either 2- or 4-wheel drive, but either way you're looking at a car that'll be significantly quicker than just about all its competitors. 62 miles an hour achievable from rest in 9.9 seconds on the way to a theoretical maximum of 116 miles an hour. To put this showing into perspective, that's about 2 seconds and 8 miles an hour quicker than the kind of 1.7 litre CRDI diesel Kia Sportage or Hyundai iX35 you'd pay significantly more for. Where you really feel that difference is in pulling power and when you come to things like towing. This car has 360 Newton meters of torque, which means that it can tug 2 tons. The 1.7 litre Kia and Hyundai rival models that I've just mentioned can manage just 1.3 tons. Quite a difference. There's also a decently capable 80 kilogram tow bar limit. It is, in summary, the most powerful towing car in its class. Not surprising then that in 2014 the Caravan Club voted it a Tow Car of the Year class winner. They reckon there's nothing else in this segment that's a better load lugger. That'll sell this car to many potential buyers right off the bat, whatever its other attractions. These people will probably also want the torque-on-demand 4x4 system fitted to the all-wheel drive variant that I'm trying here. It's one of those setups that's constantly able to shunt torque around to the wheel that has the most grip, so that power is always used efficiently. Unlike some of its rivals, this particular system also has a lock mode selectable via this button down here, should you be on very loose or slippery surfaces, or find yourself with this SsangYong somewhere you really shouldn't have ventured in the first place. In lock mode, drive is allocated equally between front and rear wheels to give you the best possible chance of extricating yourself. Not that this should suggest a Corando to be a fully fledged off-roader. It isn't. All previous SsangYong models have been, but to facilitate that, they've needed clunky ladder frame chassis, which has sometimes meant pickup quality standards of ride and handling. That would have got this Corando nowhere in tarmac comparisons with Qashqai-like crossovers and soft-roading style SUVs. Hence the Korean company's decision at this model's original introduction to use a more car-like monocoque chassis for the very first time. It's still enough though to make this car as capable off-piste as most owners will ever need it to be, with an approach angle of 22.8 degrees, a departure angle of 28.2 degrees and a ramp angle of 18.5 degrees. Surprising though that the engineers haven't fitted the kind of hill descent control system that's now quite commonplace in this segment to help your vehicle slither down steep slopes. There is a hill holder clutch though that'll aid you starting off up them. But of course most of this will be pretty irrelevant for the majority of Corando buyers, a large number of whom will opt for a front-driven two-wheel drive model. So what'll one of these feel like in this car's more natural habitat on tarmac? Well, not as sharp as one of the class-leading contenders in this segment, I have to say. The steering seems to have been primarily geared for off-road use, which inevitably means it'll feel a little vaguer than the helms offered in more car-like rivals. Having said that, if you're not a driving enthusiast, and few buyers of this kind of car are, then you're probably going to find this model's ride and handling balance perfectly adequate. If all you do is cruise around on half throttle anyway, why buy a car purpose-designed for country lane cornering? And if you're of that mindset, then this car's 6-speed automatic transmission option, which comes mated to a pokier 175 PS version of the eXDI engine, will probably be quite tempting, especially as the standard 6-speed manual box can be a bit notchy. Refinement wasn't a strong point when this car was first launched, but with this updated model, SsangYong's engineering team has worked hard to bring NVH, that's noise, vibration and harshness, levels down to meet the expected class standard, primarily by installing new engine mounts. Their efforts have paid off. This modern-era Corando wasn't only the first SsangYong to feature more car-like monocoque underpinnings, it was also the first one with styling you'd really be quite pleased to see on your driveway. Now for this, the South Koreans had Il Maestro Giorgetto Giugiaro to thank, a man known as one of the great automotive stylists of his generation, and responsible for designs as diverse and enduring as the DeLorean and the Fiat Panda. In the clean, sculpted look of the original version of this car, there was certainly evidence of the master's deft touch, and this updated model doesn't deviate too far from that, simply modernising the look with sleek projector headlamps and LED daytime running lights, framing a reshaped black grille and lower air intakes. Now SsangYong hopes it's enough to create a sharper, more contemporary look. Get up close and personal and you'll notice the squat stance, the beefy wheel arch bulges and the sharply rising belt line carrying through to a smart tailgate that now also features LED lighting. Lifting it reveals 486 litres, which is usefully more than you get in a Nissan Qashqai or a high-end iX35. If you need more, then pushing forward the 60/40 split folding rear bench reveals 1,312 litres. Take a seat at the wheel and you'll find yourself in a completely restyled interior with sharp angular styling, quite reminiscent of the far pricier high-end Santa Fe, which is no bad thing. SsangYong has also taken note of the way its Korean competitor brands have been better using aluminium look trim and soft touch plastics, and the result, providing you can overlook the artificial wood trim, is a far more inviting cabin than that of the original model. You might not think that you were in a much more expensive Sportage or Qashqai, but it's certainly a world away from the Bulgarian thrift store feeling you get sat in a Dacia Duster, the only other car in this segment able to approach this Corando's asking price. Storage is reasonably ample with a practically sized centre cubby and decently shaped side door pockets. The stereo system's now built into the dash with a standard setup that's much easier to use than the fiddly optional Kenwood DAB system you can specify with or without sat-nav. Getting comfortable at the wheel isn't a problem thanks to a height adjustable driver's seat and a reach and rake adjustable steering wheel. Plus, thank goodness, there's a proper conventional handbrake rather than one of those fiddly electric button ones. The build quality feels reasonable, and though there are still a few more hard plastics than you'll find on many more city-orientated rivals, these do feel better suited to a tough and durable life. You even get a neat holder for your sunglasses. Whatever your feelings on that, you certainly can't argue with the amount of rear seat space on offer. This is the only car in this class, premium brand models included, able to comfortably transport 3 fully sized adults on the backseat for any distance. Long journeys helped by the fact that the seat backs recline, whilst the seats themselves are even heated on top models. Rear legroom is quite plentiful, aided for the passenger in the middle of the rear seat by the fact that, unlike many of its rivals, this car has no bulky central transmission tunnel. So, one 5-door, 5-seat body shape with power coming from SsangYong's own 2-litre EXDI diesel engine, offered in 149 PS two-wheel drive guise from around £15,000. And that's certainly an eye-catching figure if you'd thought you couldn't afford a car of this kind. Add another £1,500 to that and you can get the same car with 4-driven wheels, an SE4 model like the one I have here. Over 60% of buyers will go the 4x4 route, in stark contrast to rivals that mainly focus on sales of 2-wheel drive models. To go further up the Corando lineup means finding the £20,000 budget necessary for the leather-lined ELX4 trim level. But if you do opt for that, then you also get the option for a further £1,500 of 6-speed T-tronic automatic transmission, allied to a slightly pokier 175 PS version of the EXDI diesel engine. As for the value proposition that creates, well, if you see this car as some sort of soft-roading compact SUV, it'll look very good in an age where a £25,000 budget is needed for the average Freelander or RAV4. Really though, this car is aimed more directly at the Qashqai class crossover market, a segment which, as I've suggested, is much more focused on two-wheel drive derivatives. Now, SsangYong reckons it can undercut almost everything else with comparable power in this sector, even on a Corando with 4-wheel drive included, and the figures certainly stack up. In fact, this Korean contender can even undercut most Super Mini based crossover models, cars with much smaller bodies and feebler diesel engines. After all, the entry-level two-wheel drive version of this car is around £500 less than a Renault Captur DCI 90, over £1,000 less than a Peugeot 2008 HDI 92, and around £5,000 less than a Vauxhall Mokka 1.7 CDTI. More for your money? Yes, I'd say SsangYong gives you that. But let's compare apples with apples and put this Korando up against diesel engine crossover models of similar size. Now, most of these have only two driven wheels, so we'll start by considering the entry-level version of this car, which gives you a 149 PS diesel for around £15,000. Now, the first point to make is that unless your budget is way over £20,000, if you choose any other crossover besides this one, you're going to have to accept a lot less power. For proof, just look at the fact that for around £2,000 more than a base Korando, a rival Suzuki SX4 S-Cross gives you just 120 PS, while £3,500 to £4,000 more than this SsangYong is only enough to get you a feeble 114 PS diesel version of a rival like Hyundai's iX35, Kia Sportage or Mitsubishi's ASX. You'll also need around £4,000 more for a feeble 110 PS 1.5 litre DCI Nissan Qashqai. That car, by the way, has the same engine as a Dacia Duster, another potential competitor you might be wondering about, but one that in comparable air-conditioned diesel form is only £1,500 less expensive, feels cheaper inside and offers you much feebler performance on and off-road. On to the car that I have here, the four-wheel drive Korando SC4, which, thanks to pricing from under £17,000, boasts an even greater advantage over nearly all its rivals. Again, it's true that you could consider a Dacia Duster, but in comparable air-conditioned diesel all-wheel drive form, that'd only be £1,500 less and would offer much less power and towing capability. Otherwise, to find a proper rival to this SsangYong, you're looking at having to stump up a lot more cash. Comparable all-wheel drive Hyundai iX35 and Kia Sportage models come only with a pricey 2-litre CRDI engine and cost over £5,000 to £6,000 more. You're looking at the same kind of premium for a comparable Suzuki SX4 S-Cross 1.6 DDIS all-grip, Mitsubishi's ASX 1.8 diesel four-wheel drive, or Subaru's XV 2-litre D. And you'll need a staggering £8,000 to £9,000 more for the cheapest all-wheel drive diesel Mazda CX-5 or Nissan Qashqai. In fact, you could choose the leather-lined Corando ELX4 with its extra power and optional automatic gearbox, and Dacia apart, still undercut all of the other basically trim models that I've just mentioned. If, having considered all of this, you conclude that it is a Korando that you really want, then you might think that the bargain basement pricing might leave you a little short when it comes to standard equipment. Apparently not. Outside, you get LED daytime running lights, alloy wheels, tinted glass, electric heated mirrors, all-round power windows and headlamp levelling. Move inside and there's air conditioning, a 6-speaker MP3 compatible CD stereo with Bluetooth and iPod connectivity and controls on the leather trimmed steering wheel, a heated lower front windscreen element to help you get the wipers going on a frosty day, cruise control, a Thatcham Category 1 alarm, hill start assist to stop you drifting backwards on uphill junctions, and to help you at night, puddle lamps shining down below the door mirrors, plus headlamps that stay on just long enough to light up the way to your front door. Opt for a four-wheel drive ELX4 variant and that kit tally grows substantially. You can expect to find front fog lights, larger 17-inch alloy wheels, rear parking sensors, power folding mirrors, heated leather seats front and rear, climate control and privacy glass. Safety-wise, you can expect to find twin front, side and curtain airbags, anti-whiplash head restraints and Isofix child seat fastenings on the outer rear seats. To try and make sure that you'll never have to use any of this stuff, there are the usual electronic driving aids. So ABS braking with EBD electronic brake force distribution to make it more effective, and the ESP stability control system with ARP active rollover protection. Normally, you can look at the fuel and CO2 returns of a vehicle and easily judge whether they're better or worse than the competition. Here, that's not quite so easy, or at least it isn't when it comes to the entry-level two-wheel drive diesel model. That's because here we have a car with a pokey 2-litre diesel 149 PS engine priced against crossover class rivals that offer much feebler, smaller power plants that of course are more economic. A two-wheel drive Corando then will cost you a little more to run than one of those, managing 47.1 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 147 grams per kilometre of CO2. But by the same token, it'll tow better and offer you more performance. Your choice. On to the four-wheel drive variant that I'm trying here. The returns it offers, 45.6 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 157 grams per kilometre of CO2, are pretty much on a par with those of comparably powerful rivals like Subaru's XV 2-litre D and Hyundai's iX35 2-litre CRDI all-wheel drive, and actually rather better than those of a Kia Sportage 2-litre CRDI all-wheel drive. Yes, you'll get better returns from a four-wheel drive diesel Nissan Qashqai or Suzuki SX4 S-Cross, but then both of those two cars will offer you less power in return. A Mazda CX-5 2.2D all-wheel drive does better too, but then that car costs 50% more. So a 4x4 Corando is pretty class competitive, or at least it is in manual gearbox form. Opt for the automatic 175 PS version and the returns do take a bit of a hit, falling to 37.7 miles to the gallon and 199 grams per kilometre of CO2, but still about the same as you get from a comparable Kia Sportage. What else? Well, insurance is rated at Group 19 and service intervals are quite frequent, every year or 12,500 miles. Perhaps the best bit though is the peace of mind that comes as standard with this car, thanks to this Korean brand's impressively complete, class-leading 5-year limitless mileage warranty. Limitless meaning the lack of the kind of irritating maximum mileage condition that many other brands impose in their small print. As you'd expect, the SsangYong cover deals with all the major mechanical components, including wheel bearings, suspension joints and bushes, steering joints, shock absorbers and even the audio system. Wearable components such as clutch discs and brake friction materials that could have their life reduced by poor driving are covered for 1 year or 12,000 miles, while the battery and the paintwork are covered for 3 years. Korea can do. That's apparently what this word means, and it seems appropriate. After all, it's hard to think of a car maker that has come so far so quickly as SsangYong. This Corando is the most accessible model the company makes and feels even more class competitive in this revised guise. Yes, as the brand itself would admit, this remains a work in progress, but already the signs with this car are that this Korean marque is learning quickly just what European customers really want. Already when it comes to things like pulling power, rear passenger space and sheer value for money, this Corando can take on, and in many cases beat, the best of its rivals in the crossover and soft-roading compact SUV sectors. It's better off-road than many of them too. If in future it could be a little sharper to drive with a little more running cost efficiency and interior quality thrown in, then established rivals really would have something to fear. Even as it stands though, this SsangYong is a difficult option to ignore if you need a car of this kind to tow, to regularly transport 5 and to offer plenty of kit on a tight budget. You just have to get used to explaining to people what it is, and who knows, you might even end up suggesting that they try one.